What is good to you?
Good for me, I think, is really about acknowledgement that you're going to leave the world a better place.
Welcome to Chasing Good, a circle group podcast with the aim to help us better understand the good that's happening in the world today. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to Chasing Good. Here with me today we have Annie from Lovewell. Annie, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thanks for the invite.
My absolute pleasure. So could we kick off by, getting a bit of an understanding as to what you're doing at the moment, what Lovewell is and kind of what brings you here today?
Mm-hmm. So Lovewell started 16 years ago, but for us now, we're a very different organisation, and what we do is that we assist women who come from all different sorts of vulnerable backgrounds. Many of them have obviously more than one vulnerability that they've experienced, sadly. And we assist those women through programs and through one-on-one work or referral to other organisations to rebuild their lives and then to look at training and employment. So look at where to in their new life and reconnecting them with community, starting a new tribe for them of support people around them, and then eventually getting to the point where they can go out into either the community in positions of employment or up to our social enterprise cafe that we have up the top of Macrobat Lookout. And that is a throughput cafe where the leadership team stay put, but last year we had 73 women through the cafe. For a lot of them it's about gaining just confidence and getting to know who they really are and working out what it is they really want for their lives going forward. Some of them will go back to old employment, some of them will want a complete change. So it's really, it's lovely having them there and seeing them blossom. And working alongside them. They're motivated women. We work with those women who are ready for that change. And some of them have lots of supports externally as well. Some of them have absolutely nothing. And so we're it for them. So it does live up to its name. It's about loving women well again, or just showing them that they're cared for and that they're not alone.
And so so can you kind of share your story within Lovewell, how it came to be and the background behind that?
My journey, I guess, towards Lovewell was probably predetermined. For quite some time I've been on various boards and places and was really happy with the work I was doing in volunteering on those boards. And probably towards the end of my professional career, looking for what my passion still was. I guess as I didn't have to work so much, and that was a personal boundary I put in for myself of, I wanted to get my son through school and college, uni and things like that. Then when I ran out of excuses, it was, well, what do I really want to do with my life? And I volunteered all my life in various capacities, but Lovewell came up and it just did something for me. And in reflection now, I realise for me, it was about being in a position in my life 30 years after my own domestic violence experience that I was ready to give back in a way that was a choice rather than a career. And in a way, just realising that what had happened to me as a very young woman, I was almost killed. And I have no doubt that if I had stayed in my marriage, I would have been, and possibly my son as well, which is incredibly distressing even today to think about that. I had a total of 36 broken bones, 7 stab wounds. I'd been strangled twice. And, people will look and say, well, why didn't you leave? I did 3 or 4 times before that. But I'd been brought up in a family where, and also in a small country community where you stuck at marriage, you didn't walk away. But it came very clear to me in one of the last incidents of violence that it was getting very, very dangerous and I needed to get out. And when I reflect on that, the sadness of that for me is that I had lost so much self-worth, even though I was a trained psychologist and working in child abuse and protection at the time. I had so little self-worth at home that it took the birth of my son and seeing him as a baby, he was 15 months old when I left the last time, to decide that I had to protect him, and in protecting him obviously protected myself as well. And when I look back now, I can't imagine how that happened, but it did. And I know the psyche of somebody who wants to control you, and it happened. It happened to me. And I guess for me, my understanding of going to Lovewell and looking at who I was that, I had a second chance. I was one of the lucky ones. I'm not a statistic, thank God for that. But, to families who've lost women, it's just the most tragic way. Or, somebody taking a life, and it's a person who's supposed to have loved them. I still find that really hard to understand, that behaviour. But yeah, for me, I had a second chance, and quite clearly I need to do something about that with my second chance, and that's what I'm doing now. And yeah, from the board, I was then asked to look at redesigning some of the programs that they had with my training, and I did that, and one thing led to another. I volunteered there more and more, and did less and less of my own business, and yeah, suddenly realised that I was in the right place. And that was later confirmed a few years ago when I had repartnered and went through a marriage that can only be described now in current terms, I guess, as coercive control, where quite by accident I found out that my partner had a probably 25 to 30 year habit of procuring young women for sex, and I had no idea, and it really threw me. But both professionally and personally, it was against every value I had. But being at the Lovewell made me, really look at what I'd been teaching other women, and just rebuild my life again, that it was doable, and probably made me even stronger than I was before. Certainly don't recommend anyone go through it to gain strength, but yeah, I'm a different person now, and it taught me new skills that I can pass on to the women. Of sometimes we just have to accept what's happened, because you can never understand why. You don't understand why other people are so cruel or so deceptive or so mean. I don't get it, but I just accept it happened. I don't know why, but I need to move on from that. And for me, I guess with Lovewell, it's my philosophy is if I can do it, other women can too, but many of them need help. And so I'm here to help. That's all I do. I help them with people they need to be connected to. I help them with encouragement. I genuinely praise them and let them know that they're cared about. We give lots of hugs. We tell people that we worry about them when they're not there. And for some of them, that's very foreign, those feelings. But yeah, it's such... I know it sounds cliche, but I get so much more out of it than I give. It's fabulous. It's partly a job and partly volunteering, and I love every minute of it. Yeah.
I can't even begin to imagine, even putting myself in your shoes, to have battled through that and to come out the other end and to make such a positive impact that you're making. It is truly inspirational. And as we've spoken before, to give context to anyone listening, I was fortunate enough to meet Annie through Rotary, through Ryla, probably about 5 years ago. Separate to, I didn't even know Annie did any of these incredible things in her life. I met her through a separate volunteer avenue where she helped young people find themselves too. So you've obviously been geared towards giving for a long time.
I think, reflecting back again, I think it's probably in my DNA, if that's possible. Yeah. My grandmother got an award for being with Red Cross for 75 years as a volunteer.
75 years?
Yeah, my dad's done 25 or 30 years as a volunteer at the Geelong War Museum. My mum was a volunteer. So I think we grew up knowing that you help other people. And yeah, I guess we've just formalised it. My sister does a whole lot of volunteering. My dad, who's 85, is still a volunteer. He teaches woodwork at Vision Australia 2 days a week. So, it's just, I think that you grow up with, just a belief and a value that if we each did a little bit, it can make a difference to people's lives. Yeah, and I find these days, even looking at people, watching people do a coffee that pays it forward to someone, the joy they get out of it is equal to the shock the person who fronts up at the counter gets when we say somebody else has paid for your coffee. We've had tears, we've had screaming of excitement, and it's a coffee. But that, and I challenge listeners to do something like that. Just do something little. It's amazing the buzz you get from just doing something good. And it can be little, but that could change someone's life. Many of our women have stories to tell about the day their life really changed, and particularly one that really resonates and really I hold dear, because to me it's about what Lovewell is all about, is a woman who came to us about 6 years ago. She had gone to her job provider with the intent to go home and suicide. She was done. She was over it. She had an addiction problems. She'd lost her kids. There was a whole lot going on in her life, domestic violence. It was just awful. And the woman said to her, "You need to call this number." And she screwed it up and put it in her bag. And thank goodness the worker reached over and took it out of her bag and called us. And long story short, she is now our manager. And she is a leader like I've never met before. The way she encourages people, she just knows intuitively what they need when they need it. And yeah, to me that would have been a horrific waste of a life. She had so much of a journey yet to go. So yeah, I think, people just being kind to other people, and just sometimes if you have a gut feeling, go the extra step, because you never know what that person is intending to do, or that your compliment to them, if it's genuine, or your hello might make a difference. It's really incredible. You don't have to do huge, hairy, audacious things. You can just do something very simple. And as I say, I get a real buzz out of it too. I've sat in a coffee line and gone and had my coffee and sat back and watched the next person get theirs for free, and you feel good. It's a buzz.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to do big, hairy, audacious things, but you give it a red hot crack. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the things that you're currently working on personally, and then also with Lovewell also?
Personally, I've just been on a trip to Thailand. So when the tsunami happened almost 20 years ago, I went there as an Australian volunteer abroad, and I ended up joining an organisation called Hands Across the Water that was formed after that. They built an orphanage and then have acquired 6 or 7 others, supporting children who anything from AIDS right through to being orphaned or left behind because of family violence or particularly addiction. And so every year I try and go over and do work on the task force. So we renovate or paint or build things at some of the orphanages, and that hasn't been able to happen for a few years because of COVID. And it's my happy place, but it's also my place to rebuild and really ground myself of what matters. I think here we sweat the small stuff a lot. I worry a lot about where our next funding dollar's coming from, or who I can ask to volunteer to help someone else. But if you have a different mindset of, I'm not sure where it'll come from, but it will come, you get on and you just do the business. And that's what going to Thailand and working with the other volunteers and in the orphanages with the kids just does for me. It makes me realise that it's doable. You've just got to ask, and I'm not great at doing that. I get them, you feel sad. It's sad that you've got to ask friends for help or other people, but most of them are willing, and people often need to be asked to just do a small bit, and often they'll hang around and do a big bit. But yeah, so that's what, for me, it sounds weird that I go and volunteer to relax, but I do. It's a totally different form of volunteering, and it really does fill my bucket. It also helps that I have a week off afterwards at a nice resort, but that for me is balance, and I've become really poor at doing that. I realised over the last 4 to 5 years of just, there is so much to do, I just keep going. And before I went away, I was starting to get really burnt out and thinking, I don't know how long I can do this anymore. I do want to make a succession plan. I can't stay forever, obviously. I need to retire and do other things. But it really is about, my bucket's full again. I'm back. I'm re-energised. I'm motivated. Nothing's going to stop me now. Getting that life balance is so important when you're a giver. But I'm getting better at it.
I feel like everything's a journey, right?
Yeah.
There's no simple step to achieving balance,
exactly.
particularly in a world where
and there's the adventure attached to it too of new things. You know, for me, I'm a lifelong learner. I would probably never give up working or volunteering. It's as I age, for me, age is a number and maturity is optional. And, adventure is what keeps you alive. Yeah. So I have a trip planned in September to the Formula One races in Singapore. I love fast cars, but I know nothing about Formula One, so it's a quick, steep learning curve. And then off to Egypt to go on a rotary holiday, actually, where they ride across the desert on motorbikes for 10 days. Amazing. So it's like the world's out there. And it's that balance.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And then, so can you tell me a little bit more about Lovewell and kind of where we, I guess, the different types of support services that Lovewell kind of provides and how that looks and the impact of that makes.
So we up front, we only deal with women through our programs. We absolutely support men's programs because otherwise we're only addressing half the issue. And we will refer men to men's programs that we work with, but that's men's business. So women will come to us at the charity, at the foundation, and we will work with them on what they want to tell us. So they can self-refer, they can refer through another organisation, they can come to us from a friend, whatever, it doesn't matter. And we don't do an extensive intake, it's up to them to tell us what they want us to know. And generally you'll hear more as they build trust, which is only natural. And it's really about then, so we're a holistic program. We're looking at all different sorts of vulnerabilities and obviously comorbidities of those. So it's very common, to see addiction, domestic violence, mental health grouped together. Some women we've worked with have been trafficked. Like there's some horrific pasts that they've had. So we will work with women one-to-one, and that's our first step, so that's our reset. We're just sitting with them, they've come to us, they're saying I'm motivated, they may still be an addict, they may need a referral from us to get into a rehab, and we will call them while they're there and encourage them and see what else what they need. It may be that they've been through that and they're ready now to take the next step. So it's really about meeting them where they're at. We don't do crisis intervention except if they're a current client of ours. So domestic violence, women will generally come to us after they've been moved out of the home, but sometimes they'll come for information first in planning what they want to do. Then we will work with them on those referrals or in-house programs to support them. If they then continue or they become ready further to now sort of rebuild their life and look at a career eventually, we put them into our programs. So we have currently 2. One is called Better Futures, and that's our rebuilding stage, and that's where women will sit together for 2 days a week, for 8 weeks, and run through some life skills, but then some deep dive stuff. So, and one of the projects in that, one of the areas, the workshops that they do is in being a tenant, and they get a tenancy certificate. And we found that then 9 out of 10 times means they'll get housing, which is a great start, because housing and unemployment together is really, really difficult. Lack of housing, a lack of a bed each night that's stable. Do a deep dive stuff into who are they, what are their paradigms, what are their things that from childhood or their history are stopping them, what are their self-beliefs that need reassessment and looking at, and then just gradually looking at where do they want to go from here. For mid to older women, it generally is about what jobs are out there that I might be able to get, and we're trying to blow that illusion of, vacancy, you need to fill it. It's about what are you good at and what do you love doing? Because if they're two things that you can identify through this process, then it's not so much like work, and you're probably going to stick at it. And for some of them, we've realised that what we do need to do, we go on then and do resumes and interview techniques and a whole lot of other stuff. But what we do is, for many of them, it's about creating a job. And as an offshoot from that, we've just established Bianca Fate's legacy. And Bianca was a young girl that was killed at the bottom of our mountain in a domestic violence incident. And we intend to always keep her legacy alive. It should never have occurred. And it was an incredible loss, because she would have probably been working with us now. She was an amazing, giving young woman. And her program will be specifically for young women, but it will be a variety of programs. And the first one that we are going to run is a program that's similar to Better Futures, but it's about young women who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to have their own business. And that's the difference with younger women these days. They don't necessarily look at what jobs exist. They look at what skill base they have and how can I turn that into something that's payable. And so it's about creating everything from start, get your ABN, get your logo, all of that sort of information. But then have mentors that will continue on their journey with them to make sure that we continually to link them with the right people that they need at a time, because we all know that being a sole trader can be incredibly isolating and difficult to manage as well. So they're the main two programs we run at the moment. Beyond that, our journey in the Lovewell journey, some women will, right from day one that we meet them, will come and work in the cafe because hospitality they've decided is their thing, or they really have no idea, but in order to study or to decide what it is they want to do, they need to build confidence and have an income. And so the journey can be either to the Lovewell cafe. We have obvious connections with our coffee supplier and a whole lot of other suppliers who will assist, and we're trying to build that at the moment to look at a whole range of other careers. So we do have a lot of women placed out in the community as well, and the idea is as they leave us, they have a mentor that is from the community. They can reach back to us, but it's really about growing them a new tribe around them of supportive people who they can turn to. And a great example of that recently was a young woman who got a new job and rang her mentor and said, I felt really stupid. They were talking about superannuation around the coffee table, and I know I have it, but I have no idea. I can't remember what it really is. And so the mentor was able to talk to her about that, and she got a call back the next day from the woman who said, I shared today and I told them stuff that they didn't know, and I felt so clever. And for her that was a huge thing, because previously before, whenever she felt dumb, she left her job. And she's really worked hard in the last 3 years to maintain employment. And so, it's a great outcome. And the mentor rang me later and said, I hear from her probably once every 2 or 3 weeks, and because she's just in a brand new job again. But she said, I love it. It's a really uplifting call. So so that's one of where people can do a little bit, and it makes a lot of difference.
Incredible.
So the cafe has been difficult because of COVID and because of hospitality in general. But we're one of the lucky ones. We've gotten through. All our women are paid award wages. It's all done properly. And many of them are taking full advantage of that and just totally gunning it live.
How good's that? You mentioned the number 73 last year.
Through the cafe.
Through the cafe.
Some of them were men. We do have, we'll have at any one time a few guys working there, mostly from vulnerable backgrounds as well.
That's an incredible number for 2 reasons. It's an incredible number of lives to impact in 1 year, but it's also a staggering. They're staggering numbers from a point of concern, from a small community perspective. We're not talking, scale here. We're not talking state or talking a community.
if I had more support workers, I would reckon we could put another 50 through. We have more referrals than we can cope with. And for us, it's that the cafe has gotten to a point where it can support the people there, but to grow it and have a lot more night events and things like that, there's a potential to almost double our staff number. But it is about understanding that I need professionals in positions, at least part-time, to be able to support the women on that journey. And the other thing we're currently working on, we just got a grant for, is to build a database so that we can track and no one falls through a gap of not doing their training while they're there, not receiving the support they need, but also so that we can track them after they leave us. There's 4 out of that 73 that I know of who have backslid, but they've contacted us. And they'll come back after they've done some more work, and they'll have their jobs back if they want that. We make sure that, it's not a one time and you're out. You don't get sacked, you get put off the roster until we can help you further, or until your mindset is different again, because we can't put all other staff at risk. But we have a zero tolerance to using whilst you're on the floor. So yeah, it's I think, as far as anecdotally I know, our statistics are something we can be really proud of.
Absolutely. As you know, the podcast is called Chasing Good. What you're doing is undoubtedly good. It's really helping, you say from disadvantaged backgrounds or underrepresented backgrounds. It's helping people who haven't had as much help in the past, and giving them a step up. And you talk to the positives of what of what that does for you. The impact that makes on these women and men as well, I can only imagine it's life-changing. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, we're about to, hopefully next month we'll get the grant we're after, to make a small series of videos, because there's power in story, and for our women it's very triggering to have to get up and tell your story over and over and over again. So our vision is to have the short videos made, and we've got 5 women who are really champing at the bit to do that. And yeah, every time I hear them speak, or the couple of videos we've made, there's not a dry eye in the house. It just goes to the fact that if somebody is motivated, even a tiny bit, to change their life and make it different, and they've got a few supports and encouragers around them, miracles can happen. The women sometimes, and from my own perspective too, you don't know where you draw on that strength from. It's only later when you look back and you go, how did I do that? And then you realise, well, I was a different person then. I'm strong now because of what I've been through. But yeah, I don't think we're ever been built to do stuff alone. People need community. And the addicts that we work with will always talk to us about the opposite to addiction is connection. And, for them to have friends, and for them to have people who aren't connected to their addiction or their drug world, or being their suppliers, or all of those negative types of influences, for them is so, it's a period of growth, of moving towards having friends who they call a regular. And I think for a lot of our women, they will question why. Why do people want to donate to us? Why do people want to be involved with us? Why do they want to help us? And that's sad, that they've never understood that they're worthy of that. And, we do teach them that they're worth it. And it's wonderful walking around the cafe, and they do it sometimes a bit of a joke. It's the first who does it, but you'll hear them say, I appreciate you. And, just stuff like that, it's language they would never have felt like using before, or would have felt very artificial. And they do, they care for each other, incredibly so. It's funny, one of them will say to some of the other women, how are you? And she might say, I'm all right. And this woman will turn around without eye contact often and say, don't bullshit a bullshitter. You know, and yeah, it brings laughter, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not travelling real well. But it's an honesty system, and we encourage them if they come on shift and they just need to go to the manager or team leader and say, I'm running a bit rough today. Can I have one of the jobs that I can do with my eyes closed because I'm not feeling great? And that's okay. You know, obviously it goes on a week or so. We need to help them with some therapy and things like that. But it's okay to say, I'm not okay. And I think that's really important in this day and age. The other fascinating thing I get, and it makes me incredibly proud, is people will write to us saying the food was fabulous, the view's amazing, but your women are just incredible. They were so beautiful and so friendly. And my kind of retort is, what did you expect? And I wonder if it's a hangover of the domestic violence, the old, you know, ads of women with black eyes and all of this sort of, I'm not sure, maybe for people who haven't met or worked with people who have addictions or, you know, have been through domestic violence, they don't get it. But it could be the person sitting next to you and you wouldn't know. You know, it's a hidden trauma often. But yeah, it's lovely to think that they're a bit taken aback. I'm not sure. I need to do a bit of research perhaps on, well, what did you think you'd find there? But our women are incredibly beautiful and engaging and confident. And that's to me, that's the best feedback I could receive, that it blew people's mind to think that these women were still, some of them, very vulnerable women, but they could get about their job in a place where they felt safe with a confidence.
So, and you've mentioned there's a kind of a few pieces here, and to that point, right? Creating a safe space, creating a community of support.
Yeah.
What else is important?
Resources for them. So some women will need, you know, a volunteer to take them to an appointment just for the first time because it's scary to go alone, or they will need, counsellors or, you know, a mentor or someone that is a specialist in the area that they're looking at. It's social. They need to have things to do. A lot of our women, and this is why we're really marketing it in the next few months to extend our services, so we have events at the cafe, and it's for private hire for events and a whole lot of things, and we're really wanting to build that for two reasons. A, it gives us a second workforce, but more so the idea came about simply because we have beautiful views up there too, but it's about a lot of our women want to work Friday and Saturday night, because the drag is that, the calls come in from their old friends of, come on out with us, you know, what are you doing? You're not doing anything, you're sitting at home. They don't want to be forced into that. They don't want to have that lure. And it really is about, no, I'm working. And that's the easiest excuse, I guess. But it is also giving them something to do and to redirect their life, to learn, that they need to fill their time with other things. And move away from the old crowd. So, it's a development, I guess, a slow.
And it's funny, the circle of influence is such a it's a relatively constant theme in these kind of conversations that I have with people around the people around you in the context of social entrepreneurship and helping people. The community that you create is so important to help you help people. Yeah. But there's the other side to it as well. That community can also pull you back, which is kind of something that you're having to navigate in these circumstances. How about you personally? How did you manage that? How did you find the people to help influence you?
I guess there was always strong influences around me, even growing up. Many of them obviously were women. I grew up where my mum and my grandmother both worked, which probably way back then was a bit different. And so for me, there was no concept of women not being equal. For me, rebuilding was really tricky because all my supports were in Victoria and I was here, and because of the laws the way they were at the time, I would risk my son having to see his father and potentially lose him. So I came back to Queensland to live, and that's not something that I now regret. I love it here. It's home. A lot of influence for me, I guess, came from, I went as an exchange student to Malaysia and stayed there a little bit longer than I was supposed to, and then went back a lot. And so it was about just that whole concept of around the world, there's an injustice or an imbalance in life, and if, you know, but for all of us, we have a choice every morning when we get up, and you can look on the good side of what you've got, or you can look on the bad side and stay stuck. And so I've seen people with very, very little. I lived in a house in Malaysia that had dirt floors, and we'd have to go to the market every day because we didn't have refrigeration, and yet they were incredibly happy. And it really, as a young woman, 17, I was like, how come they don't have all these things that we think are so necessary to make us happy? And it's not. It's about finding happiness in wherever you are. And sometimes that's in a moment. And for our women, even if coming to work is the happiness that they have in their life and going home isn't that great, then that's starting to create a different balance in their life. And for some of them who are going through really hard times, we'll say to them, turn up to work tomorrow. If you just sit at one of the tables and have a coffee, I don't care. But turn up to work, because you're going to be 100% better here than you are sitting at home. You'll be around friends, you'll be around people who care, and mostly they will do that, and 5 minutes into it, they're up on their feet working, doing something. So it's really about, I think a lot of it has so much to do with mindset. And, I'm not kidding myself. There are days where it's really hard to find something positive. But, that's okay too, because that's life. I'm not here to sugarcoat everything. Life gets shitty and gets really hard sometimes. And I feel very alone sometimes. I don't have a partner. I have 2 crazy dogs, and I've got my grandkids, and I've got my son and his wife. And that's, I'm incredibly lucky to have all that. But in your alone times, you've really got to sit in that, work it out, and then get out of that funk of it's a choice. I can get up and do something that makes me feel better. And that could be, 5 minutes in the sun, or take the dog for a walk, or, call a friend, whatever. But for our women, that's what we have to teach them, to look outward. And understand that what they've been through, anybody would be traumatised by that, and then some is what they've experienced. But little by little, and you take 1 step forward and 2 back, and that's still okay. We're not going to turf you out. We're not going to not love you anymore. You go back and use, that's not okay, because we're sad that you've done that, but it's your choice. But when you want to be clean again and you're motivated again, come back. And we will, with those women, if we're ever worried about them, we will certainly do welfare checks and make sure they're plugged into the right services. But for that period, our service isn't the right service. Coming to work is just not where they should be.
I feel like there's a few kind of consistent themes of like unwavering empathy in everything with everyone that you carry yourself with.
Not everyone. There's a few people I won't forget.
Yeah, okay, fair. But also accountability. I'm curious. Accountability's brought up often in the context of these conversations, and it's. But it also ties in with empathy. So you have to be. Let's park empathy for the moment, but accountability. Talk to that. So you have to be accountable to the women you're working with. You have to hold them accountable to themselves. And then you also have to hold yourself accountable to the goals that you're setting for them as well.
Yes.
It's a lot of pressure. It
is. And I feel it sometimes. And, I have a great team. We're a very small team of workers, but sometimes it's incredibly lonely too. And so for me, having my own mentors, having my own, throughout my career as a psychologist, I always had people I could go to for counselling because I needed that too. And just a different perspective on things. I have various practices that I do of gratefulness every morning, of sitting for 5 minutes and just looking out over us, over wherever I am, and just saying, thank you. I don't know what's in store for me today, but it's going to be great. And just, it's. My mum died at 60, and she had so much more to do, and there's lots of messages for me in affirmations, I guess, is what I follow a lot. So one I often think of is if I can, I must. And one that's more recently I've read is, by walking past something, you're telling the world it's okay. So for both of those, I'm one person though, and I'm realistic. If I can change a few people's lives in a little way, then I feel like I've done good. If I can leave a legacy behind where other people who have felt helped and felt the good can then do their part, then that's even better, because that's that drop in the ocean. And I've got so many women and men around me who I just admire completely, who I just know I can rely on them for support. When my last relationship broke down, I had 5 people I called, and they called a meeting together to come and help me, of like, what are we going to do? We're all here for you. And, to have that, I had hibernated for a while because I was incredibly ashamed of what had happened and embarrassed, and I worked through that and gave the shame back to where it belonged. But for our women, sometimes we need to create that because they don't have that at their fingertips. And you would hope that perhaps later on in their journey, if they go through another hiccup, they've got that.
Yeah.
And that's something they've learned, and that's something they really value. And it was fascinating during COVID. We learned very quickly. The first lockdown we were not prepared for. We were fortunate that we could keep the cafe, the takeaway part open, so we could keep women employed for short shifts and keep working with them and keep an eye on them and check them, because for them, a lot of them, it was incredibly isolating. We had a lot of women, particularly from the addiction reuse. The second one we were really prepared for, and all we offered them was a different SIM card. And that meant they had a whole different tribe. So they got rid of their old tribe who were calling them to come out to do drug deals or go drinking, and they had a new tribe of women who worked with them at Lovewell, and we had a system where they all checked in on each other.
What an incredible...
It was simple, but it worked, right?
Simple, but so meaningful.
Yeah, and so it's something that we continue. We offer them a new SIM card when they come to us if they want to, or you suggest to them, go through your, and I still do it every year. I go through my phone and look at people and I go, I should have called them. Well, why is it a should? Not serving me anymore, or I'm not serving them. People come for, the saying is, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that's so true. Maybe some people have come, we've done what we needed to do together, and now they're gone. And it's about getting rid of that baggage, because if it's a should, it's a thing in my mind that goes around, I've got too much other stuff to do. And we teach our women to, really pick people who know your values, so that you align yourself with people with similar values. You seek them out. Networking for me is a really big thing. Women will sometimes say, go ask Annie, she'll know someone. And it's not that I know lots and lots.
You know quite a lot of people.
I do know a lot of people. But what I know, those people know a lot of other people. And I remember once reaching out to you and saying we need some help with resumes, and you put it on LinkedIn and got 230 offers. And that's the power of networking, I think. And so, for me, it's about that whole concept of it takes a village. You can have 1 or 2 people who might be leaders, all the bright ideas, but you've got the doers and the workers and the people who implement it, and the behind the scenes, and then that whole plethora. I have a friend in Hawthorne, who, if I need something, 24 hours later it'll be on my doorstep,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Oh, I've got a lady who's size 12, no clothes, bag arrives. You know, and that's one problem I don't have to address.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, it takes people with all different sorts of capacities to wrap themselves around our women and just let them know there is a community that really care about them.
I also wanted to talk to empathy.
Mm-hmm.
What role do you think empathy plays in helping people? I guess there's you've got to be empathetic towards yourself as well. Empathy plays into kindness to self, empathy to self, as well as to, you know, I feel like ever forgiving and ever loving seems to be a way that you support, you know, the women that come through your doorstep.
I hope so. I don't. Some of them say I'm scary, but probably that's because I challenge them. And you know, like, you never get on with everyone.
Yeah, of course.
Some of them would probably, until often they know my story, they would say, I would never have guessed.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to wear it on. You know, it doesn't have. It's part of my journey, but it's not who I am. It doesn't define me. And so, I think, I'm definitely. I believe in kindness, and caring, but I'm no walkover. And I think I've grown into being more of that strong, caring person. And I think there is a strength in caring and showing empathy, because otherwise people will take advantage. Empathy's a funny. I never know what it actually completely encapsulates, because to me, a lot of what I do comes naturally to me, but probably hasn't always. I think now I'm older, I'm more relaxed about what I do. When my career was, you know, you could get sued for this, or you could do that, or I worked for government for a period of time, and it was all the rules and policies and procedures. And whilst I adhere to those now and, you know, respect all that, sometimes you've got to step outside and take a risk. You know, with some women I will be cheekier to them, because then that encourages them to be cheeky back. And that's self-developing. Some I'll say to them, I'm absolutely ready to help you when you're ready, but it's not now. I'll be honest, you know, but I really care about you and I want to know that you're safe, so I'll be calling you. But this program's not yet for you, but tell me what you need and I will find it for you. So it's the message of you're never alone, but I can't do this journey for you. I've done my own. You need to do your own.
It's funny, the lessons that you teach within the context of supporting the women that go through your program are actually incredibly relevant to everyone, and they're guiding principles for a lot of important pieces in life, I think, which is true, but also you know, wonderful that you can share this knowledge and experience and wealth of these women, but you can also apply the same principles to helping anyone and everyone as well. And I'm confident that whoever's listening to this will be able to take these lessons for themselves too. I'm curious, diving into the context of good, right? What is good to you?
Good for me, I think, is really about acknowledgement that you're going to leave the world a better place. And that can be in people, it can be in planet. It doesn't have to, you know, be a particular area. It's just, you know, I guess I'd like to think after I'm gone that there is a change. You know, in some way I've helped other people continue on doing something that's made the world a better place. Sometimes in our role it feels like we're the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, because domestic violence particularly, and addiction and mental health at the moment are just overwhelming. But we have to be there until we can fix the top of the cliff, what's happening up on the top of the cliff. And so if we're teaching our women kindness that they haven't been shown before, maybe they'll show it more. Maybe their kids will change. Maybe this is a generational thing. And it's not 100%, but maybe will affect, half the women that come in our front door, change their lives in some way that they do good. They are kind to people. They are more caring, self-caring. They are stronger. They give back to community. And that's something we certainly are teaching our women too, of it's fine to accept all this help, but there is a need to give back as well, because, and it's not a comparison, but you're now working. You now have some of the things that you didn't have 2, 3 and 4 months ago. And so last year we actually raised money for another women's charity, which is the Forgotten Women, the women who are 55 plus sleeping in their cars. And for some of our women it was absolutely intriguing listening to them saying, we should be asking people for donations of coffee bags, because coffee bags can be undone and used as an exfoliant when you go to a public bathroom if you're living in your car. And the knowledge they had was incredible. But what rocked all of us who did it, including the women who previously slept rough in their cars, was we was in an area that was very safe, but the cars at night, often alarms went off, and it made us realise in the older cars you can't lock yourself in. And so, there's women sleeping out there alone in an unlocked car, and those numbers are growing. And so for our women to go, that used to be me, but look at where I am now. I go home to my bed. I drive a car some days to work. And it's suddenly, for them, it's an awakening of, look how far I came in such a short time. And so that giving back to people that are where they used to be is a fabulous thing for them to be doing. And I think that's what creates change and creates good in this world, that even people who have been so traumatised and have no reason to trust or respect or want to be anything different are willing to just take a risk and trust and jump in and rebuild their lives and then become people who do good.
Do you think that is what's missing in the world? Or do you think there could be, what else could be, do you think?
So much. I think as a sector, if we could work together better, there'd be a lot more. And we certainly partner with organisations and other charities and things to do stuff together rather than each having our own little silo. I really am keen to advocate and to promote the cause of the youngest generation now, where they are wanting to buy product and support companies and businesses that support charities or have a good, do a good. They're happy to pay 10% more on a product because there is a 10% donation. And I would challenge all companies to put 10% on to their invoices and see what happens. Brisbane City Council have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing that through rates. The $15 that people could write off and get the discount themselves is now being donated to charities. People are wanting to do good. Let's capture that in all different ways. And I don't know, maybe I'm simplistic, but I really think, from all levels of government, from all levels of business, we can make huge change if we each give a little bit. And for me, it's about trying to find a couple of corporates that have 100 plus staff who are prepared to do, donation matching. So $2 every fortnight, they get a tax receipt, company matches it. That would be a position for me a year. That's that simple. So, that social responsibility, we've got to get out of, it being a sexy term and do it. And if everybody did it, we would have world change. I know we would. And I don't think that's pie in the sky. No. I've seen it happen in small places, in small amounts in various countries.
I think there's definitely momentum.
Yes, and that gives me hope. And there's the other thing that I find hope in is there's as much as we hear about youth crime and all of that, there are amazing young people out there coming through behind us. amazing. And it's just, and a lot of them have been through trauma. You know, I've got 6 young women at the moment who want to be entrepreneurs. Like, all kudos to them. I would not have done that at 20, I'm sure. You know, so yeah, I feel really buoyant that there is a better world ahead of us. I feel concerned about IT and the effects social media, but maybe we've seen a peak. Maybe it will become for good now. Maybe we'll use it differently.
Yeah, it's and that in itself is a topic for hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
But Annie, we will have to wind this one up now. I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your story and sharing the incredible work that you yourself are doing and that you're doing through Lovewell, and the incredible impact that and the lives that you're able to change and help and save. So thank you for all that you do. You are an inspiration, and it is an absolute privilege to have you in my life and to talk to you again today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for everything you do for us too. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Chasing Good, a Circle Group podcast. Our mission is to shift the world closer to kindness, sustainability, awareness and action. We hope you enjoyed. Until next time.